Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Escapes Konoha to Rebuild His Life, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Temari looked at her legs. Just months ago, her legs had been well sculpted, but a bit thin. Why were her legs gaining so much muscle, you ask? She glared at the three people in front her. We have been running for 20 freaking hours, we need to take a break. To her great chagrin, Naruto didn't even look tired as he looked back at her. So, we don't know when the E is going to be, we need to move fast. She glared. Listen, unlike the rest of you, I do not have unlimited stamina, and I need to woe. Her tirade was see off as Naruto suddenly stopped. The Uchiha absent-mindedly grabbed Serei Kirit out of the air and leaned it against his shoulder as he ran. It took Temari a moment to realize why she was still moving, and she poked Naruto's head. You do understand that if this were any other situation. Naruto just smirked, but we're in this situation, so don't complain unless you want to run again. Temari just grumbled and watched the world pass her by. Slash dash 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 slash. Haruno Sakura stood in front of the door, her heart beating fiercely. Kakashi and Lee stood beside her for moral support, and she took a step forward and slowly turned the handle. When the door swung open, a 10x10-foot room was revealed, with no windows and only a single light bulb. Sasuke slowly looked up as the door opened, the light stinging his unaccustomed pupils. The only parts of him that could move were his eyes, so he took full advantage of them to examine his visitors. Sakura walked slowly into the room, and looked at who had once been the love of her life. She knew everything he had done, yet she still could not hold back her tears at seeing him like this. They traveled silently down her face as she walked right up to him, and slowly reached up a hand to touch his face. Look at you, Sasuke-kun, is this what you wanted? She dropped her hand and looked at the ground. The press love you, only two survivors of a clan, and they're both S-class missing nins. Talk of, cursed bee, is all over the tabloids, and people eat it up. I try to believe that somehow, all of this is just a big mistake, you, Naruto, but then I go meet with my new team and realize it's real, it's all horribly real. Sasuke suddenly gained new light in his eyes. MMPH, Fat App and Uaro. Sakura looked back to Kakashi, who nodded carefully. Sakura laughed bitterly, you don't know. He left almost right after you did. A hunter team was sent after him, but no one will tell me what happened to him. I don't even know if Naruto is dead or alive. Sasuke just gaped. He would have figured that Naruto leaving Konoha would be about as likely as Iruka dating Anko, or Rock Lee shaving his eyebrows, or Itachi coming to save him from me. Sasuke shook his head to clear this train of thought, and wondered where those odd similes had come from, but suddenly noticed Lee outside the door to the room. Where there had once been two large dark proud eyebrows on the green beast's face, there was just smooth skin. Sasuke shivered. Slash dash 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 slash. Uchiha Itachi was running for his life. Not literally, of course, since very few things, nothing, in fact, had ever made him truly run for his life. To be accurate, he was running in hopes of avoiding fan thwoppage. That is, being thwopped with a fan. A rather large fan. After 3 days of straight running, it had been announced by way of newspaper that Sasuke's E would take place in 2.5 weeks, plenty of time to get to Konoha. Needless to say, a certain girl with very blistered feet was out for B. Unfortunately for Temari, Itachi was not just strong, he was very fast. She growled as she smashed another tree trunk in half. Naruto and Kisame just watched semi-amusedly from the sidelines, adding the occasional, ooh, close one, or, you almost got him there. This went on for about 6 minutes, then Temari's blisters caught up with her. 13 days later, Tsunade stood atop her tower, holding the E-plans in her hand. She had no doubts that someone would try to free the condemned Uchiha, she just wasn't sure who yet. She worried about this new K, the one called the Dark Avenger, who reeked of hidden sound. All his targets were Leaf affiliated in some way, and the various methods of K struck a chord in her that reminded her all too much of her snake-like ex-teammate. All of Sasuke's friends and associates were under 24/7 Anbu surveillance. This included Kakashi, who was the only one so far to notice his watches, but no suspicious activity had been observed. She also worried about more powerful forces from outside the village trying to take advantage of the distraction, as the majority of Konoha would attend the E. The populace, having been denied any information about Naruto, or as they called him, the demon, wanted to see at least one traitor D. It never failed to disgust Tsunade that such common people could be so B, but she had no choice in Sasuke's fate. The least she could do was make sure nothing else happened. The greatest threat would be a task force of ex-sound nins who penetrated the walls and made a full-scale rescue attempt. If that happened, people would die in large numbers no matter which side won. Her main priority would be making sure there was a solid perimeter around the stage where the E would take place. The boy had chosen death by fire jutsu, which was the most P but also most honorable, showing he had no fear. Tsunade thought it was rather fitting in a bitterly ironic way. She was worrying like mad over everything, as her gut told her something big was going to go down in 4 days, so she would have to do her best and pray. Across town, Sabaku no Gara sat on the roof of building and stared off into the sky. Slash dash 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 slash. The Dark Avenger was dressed all in black. Black shoes, black pants, and a black high-collar shirt. If not for the sound forehead protector he wore around his head, one might easily mistake him for a priest. He pushed his glasses up on his nose as he carefully looked over the paltry forces he had at his command. He had very few illusions about his chance of success, but he was determined to make no mistakes. He let his mind ponder the question of how to convince the guards to let them in. Tsunade had mostly likely closed the border, and he would have to be very sly to convince the guard that he needed to get into the village. Unfortunately, Junin would most likely be the ones guarding the entrance, so his ploy would likely fail. They were only hours from Konoha, and his team was prepping. They were infiltrating as journalists making a long and perilous journey to the village in hopes of getting a few minutes to speak with the condemned man. However, despite the clever guys, even they were allowed into the village, his odds of actually getting a chance to speak with Sasuke were essentially zero. The Dark Avenger sighed and pinched his nose. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he was just screwed. Slash dash 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 slash. Slash dash 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 slash. Late that night, while everyone slept, Itachi suddenly sat up in his bag and turned to his partner, Eni, kiss him. Why do you think God made the platypus? Ah. Wah. Kisum blinked sleepily. Damn it Itachi, go to sleep. -4 days later, day of the E. Sakura again stood in front of that door, that horrible door. It was 11:25, and Sasuke's charred body would fall to the ground at exactly 12:01. She wasn't planning on being there to watch, but had been given the right to be the one to give him his last meal. She was not alone, but was accompanied by 2 full squads of Anbu, who would remain outside the door, in case an escape attempt was made. He looked up at her, and Sakura noticed that his hair was unkempt had grown longer, making him look more wild. When he spoke, his voice was scratchy and harsh. Thank you for this, Sakura. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry again, yet the tears started to flow. Don't thank me, Sasuke-kun. Not now. The Uchiha looked her over carefully. I have a request, one final thing I would like you to do for me. She smiled and wiped the tears from her eyes. You know I'd do anything for you, Sasuke-kun. He looked up at the roof his cell. I want you to be there, at noon today. I want you to promise that, no matter what, you won't look away. Sakura didn't know what to say, but she couldn't refuse him, so she nodded mutely. Good, he smiled, and then went back to silently eating. Slash dash 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 slash. Sunid stood, overlooking the crowd. It did indeed look as if most of the population of Konoha had shown up, and the training field they were using was almost filled. It was 11:53. In just seconds, the prisoner would make his appearance. Suddenly, the ground shook, and as Sunid's eyes widened, spouts of flame could be seen shooting upward all over the village. A Junin dropped down in front of her. No need to be alarmed, Chuan-sama. It appears that your guess was correct. A group of nins were discovered in the village less than 8 minutes ago. The leader is still alive. What shall we do with him? The Hokage wiped sweat from her forehead. We can delay for a minute or two. Bring him here. She then turned to calm the crowd. Slash dash 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 slash. The Dark Avenger felt a defeat bitterer than any he had experienced before. After succeeding in so many ways, they had been caught at the last minute. His few remaining supporters were and he was being dragged before the Hokage. The Junin holding him pulled him through the masses of people, and out into the open. He was shoved forward, and Sunid regarded him critically. So, she said, you're the one who planned all this. The Dark Avenger shows himself at last. Did you choose the name, Dark Avenger, or was it something the newspapers gave you? Well, Kabuto. The silver-haired medic nin spat at the Hokage's feet. I have nothing to say to you. Sunid shrugged. Okay then, I'll deal with you as soon as we're done with Sasuke. Kabuto gnashed his teeth at his own helplessness, but could do nothing as the Junin dragged him off to one side. Sunid raised an arm and the masses parted. At the other end of the field was the prisoner, his hands and feet chained, accompanied by Shizune and 3 Anbu. Shizune stepped forward and, steadying herself, took a deep breath, and called out, D-man walking. The grim procession walked slowly forwards, the Uchiha paying no attention to the hordes of people on either side of him. He arrived at his destination, a cleared part of the field where Sunid herself stood. He was walked over to a thick log and was chained to it, his Anbu guards making sure he was secure. Sunid walked up to him. Any last words? A set of dark eyes rose to look at her. Actually, I'd like a stick of Pocky. Sunid blinked. Okay, she turned around. Anyone have a box of Pocky? A man in the crowd raised his arm. I do. Here. He threw it forward and Shizune rushed to catch it, before running back to pass it to Sunid. The Hokage pulled out a stick and put it in the prisoner's mouth. Good. He nodded, so Sunid gestured, and the people moved back. The guard Anbu got out of the way, and Shizune jogged back a bit. Sunid had decided to perform the E herself, and once everyone was clear of the blast area, she started her little speech. You, Uchiha Sasuke, have been found, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to be guilty of high treason against Konoha. The punishment for this crime is death, and that punishment shall now be inflicted. Sunid flashed through hand seals, Gukakyu no Jutsu. Unnoticed in the masses of people, Haruno Sakura was crying, her tears reflecting the light as she forced herself to watch. Kabuto fought futilely against those holding as he watched the last of Orochimaru's legacy go up in smoke. Hitaki Kakashi was also watching closely, but for a different reason. Something about this whole thing felt odd. Sunid completed the jutsu, and looked at her handiwork. She had to personally confirm the Uchiha was indeed D. Kakashi knew something was wrong. All his instincts screamed at him, something was setting him off, something he was feeling and should be remembering. He reached to pull up his forehead protector. Kakashi's eyes widened in horror at what his Sharingan revealed, but he knew even as he started to yell a warning that he was too late. As the not-so-D body's eyes met hers, Sunid only managed one word. Mangekyu. Slash dash 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 slash. From the Diary of Uchiha Itachi. Entry number 465. There are 69 hours until the E. Contrary to what many would claim, I feel a full range of emotions. Anger, joy, sadness, envy, regret, lust, all these are familiar to me. Yet in my current situation, I find myself incapable of describing how I feel. Perhaps the only way to help you understand is to describe my position in as simple terms as I can, allowing you to draw your own conclusions. I am currently in a place I don't want to be, with 3 other people who don't want to be here either. Everyone around us is a potential enemy, and as we're in the middle of a large village, there are a great many potential enemies. I have led us here to rescue someone who will most assuredly try to kill me and or my companions at least once or twice during the course of the rescue, and this is while simultaneously fighting off an army of shinobi who will be very very pissed off at us. People have been calling me crazy for years, only here and now do I start to consider whether they might have a point. Slash dash 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 slash dash. Entry number 466. Only 44 hours left. I find that as the rescue attempt draws nearer, I feel my need to write down my thoughts grow even stronger, and I am not foolish enough to delusion myself as to the reason. It is entirely possible that, in the course of this mission, I will die. If that happens, I, oddly enough, feel the need to leave at least some piece of myself behind, so without further ado, I give you my philosophy for life. The thing I find most perplexing about the human race is their obsession with why. It has generally been my observation that often people pay more attention to why something was done than what was actually done. An excellent example of this theory being of course my claim to fame, the so-called Uchiha M. Let us say, hypothetically, that I kill off my pathetic clan for noble reasons. It's not true, but that's why it's hypothetical. Due to the advantage of our Sharingan, a member of the Uchiha clan used to kill an average of 12 people in a lifetime. Let us say, to account for the old and middle-aged shinobi, who have already killed a number of people, and the babies who kill none, that every person I kill would have themselves kill an average of 6 people had they lived. Exactly 47 people died by my hand that day, another 11 died due to friendly fire, and based on our math so far, in them, I have saved 235 lives. Expanding this notion, if one looks at the people I kill even today, most of them are the large stupid rude ones, the ones who tend towards irrational violence. One could view it as my doing the world a service, as there are probably hundreds more people who are only alive today because I removed those who would have killed them. If this had been my intention all along, to save lives, people would view me very differently than they do. The truth is, I killed the foolish clan into which I was born to test them and myself. I found them lacking, so they die. I kill people today not because they are evil or crude or unjust, but because they annoy me. It just so happens that these traits are often found on the same people. Looking at it statistically, I have been doing unintentional good and saving lives my whole life. If people judged my actions just on my results, I should get a medal. The thing is, people don't think about the unexpected benefits of the people whom I happen to KD, they just look at why I did it. I don't really care if they judge me, but it's astonishing, because that way of thinking implies that the result of an event is different because of the intentions that led up to it, an idea that is completely absurd. I need look no further than the justice system, where M is different from M, as if K someone by accident makes them less D than if you meant to K them. This magnificent self-delusion is to protect the people from what we all know on some level, K is K, and death is death. No matter the reason, why. A shinobi's brain cannot acknowledge this, because it would mean that the third Hokage was the same type of person as Orochimaru was. In an interesting bit of irony, the snake in third had probably K about the same number of people when they D. People have speculated endlessly about how people like me can live with ourselves, and the answer is simply thus. Good and evil are subjective. Justified and unjustified are subjective. Wise and foolish are subjective. But strength is not. Rather than make up thin excuses for my actions, immersing myself in the justification of why this or that was done, I simply do what I want to. It is power that allows me to live this way, outside the borders of society, and it is for that reason that I seek more power. I don't expect anyone to completely understand these words I have written, I don't understand them fully myself. But even if whoever is reading this dismisses my ideas as crazy, which you inevitably will, I hope they are at least remembered. Slash dash 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 slash. Itachi sat back and reread his most recent entry. It was unusual of him to be so blatant, even if he was just writing in a diary. Honesty did not come easily to a man who led a life of secrets. It was true, he mused, what he had said in his second last sentence. He had sat down intending to try writing out his thoughts, but what had come out was something he didn't fully comprehend. He closed the small black book with a snap, and slid it into his pocket before rising up from his bench and stretching his shoulders. He hadn't planned to writing for so long, and he had a sneaking suspicion that he was late. He grabbed up what few belongings he had brought with him, and left the park, striding through the streets of Konoha with confidence. Slash dash 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 slash. Temari leaned against a lamppost, glancing around nervously. Itachi was 15 minutes late, and for a moment she wondered if someone hadn't recognized him. This thought was dismissed as soon as it came, for even in the unlikely event of Itachi being recognized, he wouldn't have gone down without one hell of a fight, and everything had been peaceful all morning. But it didn't stop her from worrying. She was just about to leave without him, when she spotted him turning the corner 2 blocks away. A minute passed, and when Itachi was just passing her, Temari started walking with the throng of people in the streets, one more drop of water in a stream. A few minutes later, they were bouncing through the forest. It had been decided that Kisame and Naruto would stay behind in camp, due to Naruto being a familiar face in Konoha, and Kisame just looking funny. This meant that Temari and Itachi had spent most of a day gathering information with regards to Sasuke's R. A mind-numbing activity, as most people knew the same things, so one could spend hours listening to the same rumors and learn almost nothing of value. Needless to say, after a day of droning gossip, both shinobi were ready to relax. Just a few feet from the edge of camp, Itachi stopped and suddenly grabbed Temari's arm. Look. Concealed in the grass was a wire, but it took Temari a moment to see it. Naruto set traps. Itachi shook his head. Kisame. Even I almost missed the wire, and Naruto isn't that good at being subtle. Both carefully stepped over the wire and started towards the tents, only to feel something pull at their legs. Temari looked down. Oh, crap. A huge log came hurling out of the upper foliage, but Itachi and Temari watched in a kind of trance as it missed them by more than 10 feet. They followed it with their eyes as it swung into the brush to the left of them, and heard the log hit something with a thump. Click. The thump was normal, but the click had Itachi mildly concerned. 5 large bolts were fired into the air, the log obviously having set off another trap, but again, none of the bolts seemed to be aimed at where Itachi and Temari had set off the initial trip wire. But as each of them landed, Itachi heard more of that mechanical click. This went on for a whole 20 seconds more, and it seemed that every type of trap in existence had been wired up in a few hundred square feet of forest, each set to trigger the next ones. The grand finale was when 3 kunai traps were set off, each kunai bearing an explosive tag. They were angled till they hit a tree trunk at 3 different spots, and one large explosion later, the tree toppled slowly towards Temari and Itachi, who stepped out of the way, allowing it to fall between them. There was one more click. The falling tree had set off the initial trip wire that he had so carefully stepped over, and he found himself hanging upside down. Needless to say, Itachi was not amused. Unfortunately, everyone else seemed to be. Temari was at least trying to hold in her giggles, whereas Naruto and Kisame emerged from one of the tents laughing openly. Determined to retain his dignity, Itachi wordlessly see himself down, landing on his feet with all the grace of a cat. After slowly examining himself, unwrinkling every wrinkle, and straightening every hair, he languidly stretched his shoulders, took a few deep breaths, and turned on the glare. There were no fear stimulus used for the glare, nor was his Sharingan activated. In fact, the glare was so effective because it showed people just how frightening he could be, even without any of his ninjutsu and genjutsu. When he spoke, his voice was positively glacial. Now that you've alerted every shinobi within 10 miles as to our presence, I suggest you get ready to go. You will explain this incident as we travel. As the 4 of them bounced through the treetops, Naruto was jovially describing the morning's events. Flashback. Kisame looked up at the sky. Naruto looked up at the sky. They were bored. Very bored. Naruto suddenly sat up. No, what's fun? Dominoes are fun. Kisame rolled his eyes. Oh good, I'll pull some out of Maya and we can set him up. A tad sarcastic are we. Didn't you ever set up huge patterns of dominoes to knock over? The shark man snorted, why would I want to do something like that? Because it's fun, seeing if you can line everything up perfectly. As I mentioned before, we don't exactly have any dominoes. Upon hearing these words, Naruto suddenly got an idea, kiss him. Isn't it possible to set a trap to trigger another trap? A grin slowly split his Kissam's blue face, why yes, it's quite a common tactic, actually. End flashback. Naruto smiled at the memory, so, as I'm sure you've guessed, things just kind of snowballed at that point, and soon we were using up all our trap kits. As they continued away from their old campsite, Itachi fought the urge to start yanking at his hair. Back in said campsite, a group of leaf chunin dropped to the ground. The leader scratched his head in bewilderment. It looked as though every type of trap in existence had been set off in just a few hundred square feet of woodland. He groaned, it was going to take weeks to sort this out. Slash dash 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 slash. Later that night, they sat around a campfire exchanging information. Itachi was the pseudo-leader of the mission, so he spoke first. Okay, people, we have a few major problems. We need to get in while remaining undetected, stop my stupid brother from being fried, and get out with everyone still possessing all their body parts. Naruto considered for a moment. Getting in shouldn't be a problem, the village doesn't have the resources to guard all the walls, but the E stage will be packed with Anbu, so we'll need to make our move before the E itself. Itachi wagged his finger, yes and no. I have an idea that's just crazy enough to work, but it doesn't account for the third problem of how to escape. Everyone just looked at him expectantly, and Itachi realized he was supposed to elaborate. Okay, it goes like this. The first thing we would need to do would be to nab 4 Anbu and take their uniforms, thus allowing us to enter into Sasuke's cell. Since any discrepancy in the number of people coming and going would be immediately noticed, I will take my brother's place. Kisame held up a hand, wait a sec, here, Itachi. Even assuming we could pull off the deception, how is you being D better than your brother being D? Itachi had to yet again sigh at how his usually sharp-minded partner could be so dense sometimes. I'm not planning on D, Kisame. Since it's death by fire jutsu, I can use Amaterasu to protect myself from the flames. It was Temari's turn to raise her hand. Correct me if I'm way off base here, but wouldn't you still then be surrounded by an army of shinobi? Well, yes, but since the Hokage will have to confirm the death herself, I should be able to take her as a hostage. Naruto started to move, but Itachi grabbed his wrist. Okay, you don't need to raise your hand, just talk. The boy lowered his arm sheepishly. Even assuming you managed to take Tsunade hostage, the stalemate wouldn't last for long. Konoha would quickly organize a strategic attack, and even you can't hold back a village. Itachi scratched his head. I know, that part is still a problem. Naruto felt, for the first time in some while, a stirring at the back of his mind. Give me a second guys, the bastard fox wants to chat. Naruto allowed his mind to fall into the dreamscape. What I want. The chibi fox was wearing a smile. I've been doing a little eavesdropping on your conversation, and I know of a way to solve your problem, brat, or rather, the Uchiha's problem. Naruto's reacted the same way he did to anything the fox said, with skepticism. How exactly could you help solve our problem? The chibi fox's smile darkened to an evil grin, which it should be noted, looked very odd on his rather small body. What would you say to completely immobilizing all of Konoha for 15 minutes? If I believed that was possible, which I don't, I would say, what would you want in return? Nothing, brat, this is personal. I just want to see the look on the Hokage's face when the lot of you walk out from under her helpless nose. Okay, I can see you wanting revenge, but I still don't understand how you could immobilize that many people. Okay, the fox amended, maybe not all of Konoha, but all the shinobi at least. And also, note I didn't say I was the one who would do this. I just said there was a way to do it. Naruto instincts said something was wrong about this, and who other than you would have even near enough power to pull off that kind of jutsu? 10 minutes later, Temari shook her head. That's insane. Kisame looked like a child with a new toy. I think it sounds fun. Itachi tapped his finger on AK, we would all be betting our lives on this, but I think it's our best shot. Temari continued the head-shaking motion, you are all nuts. Naruto tallied everything up, okay, that's 3, yes, votes, and 1, you're all crazy, vote. We're going for it. The Uchiha glanced at the rising moon, are you going to meet him tonight? Naruto shook his head, Kyuubi said I should be well rested, apparently any mistake or oversight while talking to him might get me eaten. Then I'm guessing, Kisame said, amused by the mental image of Naruto being gobbled up, that we should probably get to bed soon. Naruto nodded, probably. Temari rubbed her head, remind me again why I put up with you fruitcakes and your ideas. Naruto stroked his chin, our devilish good looks. Itachi tilted his head, our razor-sharp wit. Kisame held up a hot dog he had been cooking over the fire, our masterful culinary ability. The sand girl resisted the urge to throttle something, the question was rhetorical. They all watched as she stomped out of camp, then Naruto started to get ready for bed. Itachi, could you play something? The Uchiha silently nodded and took out his guitar, playing a soothing melody while Naruto drifted off and Kisame ate his hot dog. Slash dash 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 slash. I was late that night when Temari crept back into camp, sliding into her sleeping bag as silently as possible. She was feeling proud of her sneakiness when she saw Naruto's bag shift and his head emerge. That was a long walk, he remarked dryly. I had to blow off some steam. It bothers me when you don't take my concerns seriously. We're all concerned, but Itachi was right, there's no other options. We either have to try using Kyuubi's idea or let Sasuke die, and the latter is not an option. I owe Itachi at least that much. But still, then how about you come with me tomorrow? Then you can judge for yourself whether this will work. If anything, Temari looked even more disturbed, you want me to go with you? Yeah. Why not? There were a million reasons why not, but Temari knew that most of them were irrational. The fundamental idea disturbed her, but she had never been one to back off. Fine then, she said resolutely, I will. Next morning 23 hours until the E. Naruto took a deep breath and his sword into a cliff wall, watching as it sunk in, forming a black portal. He looked at Temari, ready. She nodded shakily, and they walked in together. Temari had the momentary sensation of being immersed in cold water, but then it was gone, and she found herself quite dry, and in total darkness. The only thing she could perceive was Naruto, and that was only due to his breathing, which she realized annoyedly, was much calmer than her own. Naruto started to move, as if guided by some other sense, and she followed silently. They walked for what could have been 5 minutes or 5 hours. Temari found her sense of time was skewed. The first sign they had reached the destination was that Naruto stopped moving, but she soon felt another presence, one far more terrifying. Naruto bowed low, and broke the silence for the first time since they passed through the black portal. I am Fushiku Naruto, and have come to seek aid. I humbly ask the name of the one who stands before me. Temari heard what seemed to her to be the rustle of a chain, and suddenly noticed that there was now a small bit of light coming from somewhere, and she fought as all her instincts told her to flee. Towering above them stood a canine form, its glowing red eyes being the source of light. Its body appeared to be made of nothing more than dark blue smoke, but it was completely bound by chains, preventing the great beast from moving much in any direction. There were 8 pegs embedded in the ground surrounding the creature, and 5 of them had chains attached, while 3 more chains hung loose, obviously having once been attached to the 3 other pegs. The 2 humans studied the demon, as it also studied them. When it finally spoke, its voice was deep and echoing. Never have I met a human who was so polite, and you were brave to enter a place like this, so let it be known that the greater demon Fenrir will hear your request. Slash dash 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 slash. Naruto slowly raised his eyes to meet the restrained demon's gaze. I am in need of a binding jutsu large enough to restrain a full army, and was told the only place I would find one capable of such a feat was here. The boy was careful to keep his voice polite and neutral, as from the looks of things, he suspected binding jutsus might be a bit of a sore point with this particular monster. One could say I have a certain affinity for sealing and binding techniques. I have had, after all, over 2,000 years in which study the most powerful of them. 2,000 years. Naruto and Temari yelled. Yes indeed, little ones, I was defeated exactly 2,378 years ago, my physical body destroyed, and my spirit sealed in this pocket dimension. The jutsu was so powerful, 8 people gave their lives to imprison me, each one of them using their very essence to form the chains and attach them to my soul. No sealing technique since could begin to compare, but it was lost sometime around 1200 years ago. Temari was finding her fear transforming into fascination, and having almost forgotten she was there, Naruto jumped when she spoke, but why would they go to so much trouble to seal you? Of all the demons I've met, you're by far the nicest. The great wolf laughed, his semi-solid form straining at his bonds as he shook with amusement. Centuries of imprisonment tend to change one's outlook on life. Before I was sealed, I was no different than the 9-tailed whelp, who was the one who sent you here if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen him in 400 years, but his smell is still the same. Temari was oddly at ease with the demon, despite the fact that he was older than recorded history. Naruto was for anyone who could call the Kyuubi a whelp and get away with it, so he liked Fenrir too. It's true, Naruto said, that the Kyuubi sent me here, but he gave no indication of what's involved with getting your aid, what I would need to do or what your help would cost me. Well, the demon replied, the first part is easy. I can handle most of the work, but you need to weaken space so I can manifest beyond my pocket dimension. As for what my help costs, it is its own reward, as one of my chains will break. This, of course, drew Naruto's attention to said chains, 3 of which hung loose from Fenrir's body while the other 5 were still attached to the pegs in the ground. How could I break something you can't? Fenrir growled, the seal that holds me was cleverly designed. It was decided by the Council of 8 that there might come a day when my help would be needed, so to account for this, every time I help a human who requires it, one of my chains will break. Think of me as a prisoner whose sentence is reduced for doing community service. Oh, so all I need to do is open a gate when the time comes. Not so fast, little man, I haven't actually agreed to anything yet. Nothing annoys me more than rudeness, and you have done something very rude. Much better. I was worried for a second. I once had a nut job bring a girl here who he was going to use as a virginess. He seemed perfectly normal until he started yelling about how he would spill bee to appease the ravenous hunger of the demon, in other words, me. I squashed him, which counted as helping the girl, so I broke a chain and ridded the world of an A. You thought I was planning to use Temari as AS. Nah, it just makes a good story. You didn't strike me as the type of human who would waste such a cute girl. Temari blushed at the compliment. Fenrir was rather charming for a gigantic blue wolf made of smoke. Speaking of which, I was hoping that you might be able to do me a little favor, Temari-san. Naruto was being ignored, and was having a minor sulking moment, but Temari was flattered, what can I do to help? Slash dash 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 slash. Itachi and Kisame stared at the black portal. If you had to guess, Itachi, how long would you say they've been in there? About an hour and a half so far. So what do you feel like doing while we wait, then? I don't know, maybe we could play I Spy or something. Kisame looked sideways at his partner. I Spy. Yeah, the game. You know, where you say, I spy with my little eye something that isn't a color, then the other person has to try and figure out what the thing is. I know how to play, but why of all things would you think of that? Why not train or something? Itachi shrugged. Well, I Spy just struck me as the kind of thing people would do for long periods of time. Quote, Sometimes, I worry about you, Itachi. Slash dash 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 slash. Far below, Naruto was training, using the demon's interlocking network of chains like a jungle gym, vaulting from one to the next. He swung around Fenrir's back leg on one of the loose chains and let go, flying through the air before landing and balancing calmly on the demon's back. We really need to get going soon. Temari looked up from her ear. Do we have to? Yes. Sadly, your friend is correct. You have little time left, but I shall be there when my aid is needed. Slash dash 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 slash. I spy with my little eye something that is red. Kisam's eyes roamed the area carefully. There weren't many things that were red. The clouds on my Akatsuki cloak. Itachi narrowed his eyes. Yes, that's right. The Uchiha wasn't currently wearing his cloak, and had figured Kisame wouldn't be smart enough to look at himself. It was now the Shark Man's turn. I spy with my little eye something that is Naruto. The aforementioned boy stepped out of the portal, followed just seconds after by an unusually happy-looking Temari. Itachi glared. Where in the 9 layers of hell have you two been? Giving a greater demon a massage, but that's beside the point. He agreed to help us. All Naruto needs to do is perform some jutsu that will weaken space enough for Fenrir to manifest from his prison dimension. While Temari was talking excitedly, the gate was closing and Sere Kirit emerging. Naruto grabbed the handle of his sword and immediately felt the Kyuubi's discontent. It was just now that it occurred to the boy that the portal had been open this whole time, and therefore Kyuubi had been holding it open the whole time. Naruto resolved to be nice to the fox for a while. So then, we ready to go kick summer? Kisame asked. Naruto nodded. Yeah, we need to move out soon. Since security will be insane the last few hours, we need to perform the switch ASAP. 16 hours until the E. Naruto carefully tried on the Anbu uniform, noting how it stretched to fit his body. He locked the various pieces of armor into place and finally examined the mask. His look to have been based on a bird of some variety, as uniforms had been distributed based on size. With Naruto in the hotel room was Itachi, tired from using a powerful genjutsu on a 4-man Anbu team, and Kisame, who was currently amusing himself by arranging the unconscious members of said team into compromising positions on the bed. Itachi was getting suited up next to Naruto, and Temari was changing in the bathroom. Their plan had gone almost flawlessly so far. They had spotted the Anbu who were assigned to give Sasuke his meals, and once the team split up and each headed home, Itachi, one by one, caught them in a powerful genjutsu. It was a tad bit of hassle, but Naruto had requested there be as little K as possible. It had been brought up that the Anbu might be missed at home, but Itachi had assured the rest of them it wasn't uncommon for an Anbu to be gone for days at a time without warning. Naruto clamped his final arm guard into place, but burst out laughing as he turned around, but Kisame had successfully placed them on top of and around each other so none of it was visible, and so anyone walking into the room would immediately make incorrect and rather naughty assumptions. Itachi just rolled his eyes and finished strapping his own armor on as Naruto and Kisame admired the Shark Man's work. A few minutes later, Kisame too was in uniform, and Naruto and Itachi were helping him make sure all his skin was covered up, since it really wouldn't do for Kisame to be recognized due to his rather odd shade of skin. Only when Itachi pulled the hood up over the back of Kisame's head, finishing the disguise, did all 3 shinobi realize Temari hadn't left the bathroom yet. Naruto walked over and knocked. What are you doing in there? We have to go. The doorknob turned slowly, and the bathroom door swung open equally slowly. When Temari finally did step hesitantly into the main room, reactions were varied. Itachi merely arched an eyebrow, Kisame whistled, and Naruto turned a color usually reserved for tomatoes. All the Anbu they had captured were men, but the uniforms were stretchy, so no one had predicted a problem. Do I really have to wear this? Naruto just stared blankly at her, and Kisame nodded with a slightly lecherous grin, so she looked to Itachi, who considered for a moment. I really think that one would fit you the best, Temari-san. You are the smallest, so I doubt any of us could even fit into that uniform. But, I'm really not comfortable. Naruto looked up, face blazing. You look fine. 12 hours until the E. The 4 Nukanen slid their earpieces into place and walked perfectly in step up to the Junin leader whose team was on guard duty. It had been decided that being the only one of them to have ever been Leaf Anbu, Itachi would do the talking. We're here for the scheduled prisoner checkup. Itachi had explained the odd law that Konoha could not eat anyone who was sick, so exactly 12 hours before the E, he would get a checkup. The checkup was to be done by Shizune, so the Nukanen had shown up 20 minutes before Shizune was set to arrive and would have to bluff their way through. The guard looked up boredly. Shizune-sama is to perform that task. Itachi used his best Anbu Voice, cool and in control, with just a hint of threat. The Hokage has ordered us to perform this task so as to relieve Shizune-sama of part of her heavy workload. The guard looked at Itachi carefully, then shrugged. Okay then, please pass through the chakra sensor. Itachi had told them about this. It was a simple ring 10 feet high, but anyone molding any chakra at all would set off an alarm as they passed through it. The device would detect any bunchans among the group or even the weakest of genjutsu. There were very few chakra sensors, and their manufacture was a mystery, so they were only used for the highest security. Once they had all passed through, the Junin nodded. You people can go do your thing, but Shizune-sama will probably redo it anyway. The first obstacle overcome, all four of them fought the urge to break into a run as they walked closer and closer to where Sasuke was being kept. Their arrival was actually rather anticlimactic, as it was just a regular door, and when opened up was just a regular cell. Except for its restrained occupant. Sasuke blinked and looked up sleepily as four figures surrounded him. He figured it was just a regular visit until one of them leaned close his ear. Listen up, bastard, we can get you out of here, but you'll need to stay cool. Recognizing the voice as Naruto's, but not really able to respond, Sasuke just hung limply in a daze as he quickly found himself quickly unbound and on the floor. Not really having the energy for a full-blown angsty speech, Sasuke settled for a glare. What are you doing here? Itachi sighed, saving your ungrateful A. Now get up and get you or I'll do it for you. Sasuke again sat in a semi-stunned state. Itachi had come to save him. Sasuke had friends from the academy, teachers who cared about him, loyal subjects from the sound, and Itachi was the one to come save him. Not only that, from the looks of things, Itachi was going to risk himself. This reality did not compute with the mental image of Itachi that Sasuke held in his mind. Sasuke was soon also in his U, and Naruto helped him put on the Anbu uniform his brother had been wearing while Itachi quickly threw on Sasuke's clothes and Kisame started to strap the older Uchiha into place against the wall. Within minutes, the exchange was complete, and almost no one would ever be able to tell the difference between the two brothers. Sasuke had grown to look more like his brother as time passed, growing taller and his face thinning out. Naruto suddenly noticed a problem, and before anyone had time to react, he whipped a kunai out of his holster and pulled Itachi's hair out of its usual ponytail, and then with one quick swipe, he see it to look like Sasuke's mid-length mop, grabbing the excess hair and shoving it into his pocket. Itachi glared at him, but they both knew it needed to be done. Naruto wanted to get Sasuke out of there before he came to his senses and tried to K the now mostly helpless Itachi, so he grabbed him by the arm and dragged him out of the room, Temari and Kisame following quickly after. Once they were outside, Naruto again whispered into Sasuke's ear, listen, we are a group of Anbu who have just finished inspecting the health of Uchiha Sasuke, and we found him to be in perfect health, got it? Sasuke nodded slowly, and all four of them strode purposefully back out of the prison until they again met the guard. Naruto stepped forward this time, everything is in order, and there are no complications. The Junin shrugged again, I figured as much. With that, the Nukenin and ex-prisoner vanished, bouncing from building to building. Naruto was leading them to their hotel, where they picked up their weapons before moving to another hotel, far away from where they had left the sleeping Anbu. Only when they were again safely within the boundaries of a private room did Naruto gesture for everyone to remove their masks, and Sasuke spent the first few minutes just examining each face, as he knew all of them. Kisame was to be expected based on Itachi's presence, and Naruto he had recognized based on voice, but what Gaara's sister was doing here the Uchiha couldn't discern. He just went on looking for a while, and the other three let him. When Sasuke finally did speak, his voice was low and carefully controlled, I would like it if someone would tell me what's going on here. Naruto sighed, very long story, which you will hear eventually. Right now, we need to sleep, because we have a major mission tomorrow and unlike you have been busy working all day. If you can't sleep, there should be some reading material in your left pocket. With that, Naruto leaned his sword against the wall and flopped down on his bed, without even bothering to take off his shoes. Kisame and Temari took a bit more time but were soon also crawling into their first soft beds in a long while. Sasuke sat in one of corner chairs and observed everyone in their attempts to sleep. How do you know I won't escape? Naruto opened one eye, trust me, you won't. Sitting silently for half an hour, Sasuke soon heard snoring and moving very slowly, he worked his way over to the window. When he was just about to jump out, he felt a hand on his shoulder. I told you, stupid bastard, don't even bother. Sasuke hadn't heard the fox boy move. Naruto led Sasuke by the shoulder back to his chair and was soon again snoring happily. Leaving Sasuke to sit and do what Sasuke did best, sulk. After another 20 minutes of moping, the Uchiha grudgingly reached into his pocket and pulled out what Naruto had called reading material. It looked like a normal leather-bound notebook, and Sasuke was curious as he opened it and read the inside of the cover. The personal diary of Uchiha Ryusuke Itachi. Oddly, his first thought was that he hadn't known Itachi had a middle name. It was the kind of thing one expected to know about one's brother. It was also the kind of thing one expected to know about a person they had devoted their lives to, so Sasuke felt he had failed doubly. Once this rather random thought process worked its way through his mind, he pondered for a moment, and turned to the first page. He really had nothing better to do, and as far as Sasuke was concerned, anything he learned about Itachi would be to his advantage, so he started to read. Naruto lay in bed, feigning sleep. He could hear Temari snoring lightly not 10 feet away, and let his mind wander through thoughts of the sand girl. Between the arrival of Kisame and Itachi, the rushing that had followed the discovery of Sasuke's capture, he realized that he and Temari really hadn't had any time together. In fact, the last time he and Temari had a decent conversation without one of the Akatsuki around had been the incident on the rooftop, almost 3 weeks ago. This bothered him, and on reflecting, he discovered that he had become oddly adapted to Temari's presence. He immersed himself in memories, remembering the times she smiled, the times she glared. He remembered the threats fondly, because it was something of a joke between them, seeing as how Temari had as much chance of beating Naruto and Seikira as Neji had of winning the Mr. Personality contest. But of everything, Naruto liked it best when she smiled. It was a rare occurrence, but that just made it all the more treasured. He lost himself in the warmth of memory, but suddenly snapped out of it as he opened his eyes with a start. It was at that precise and exact moment that Naruto realized he had a major crush on Temari of the Sand. The next morning's dawn found Sasuke still in that same position, reading the final diary entry. In 5 hours he had sifted through all his brother's various experiences and thoughts, and as his eyes washed over the final passage, he felt a great weight settle on him. If Sasuke took a step back from his prejudice and hate, it frightened him how much sense Itachi made. He had started reading in hopes of learning something about his enigma of an older brother, and now he wished he knew less. Sasuke had demonized his brother over a span of many years, an image Itachi had done nothing to dispute, but now as he sat in a hotel room surrounded by soon-to-be waking Nukanons, Uchiha Sasuke faced the greatest opponent of his life. He had come face to face with his brother's humanity. Sasuke was well aware that he was not one who could lecture about morality, so acknowledging that his brother was human put them on the same level, and though he still hated Itachi fervently, he found his once fanatical obsession fading with the morning's dew. Naruto started to shift and slowly opened his eyes. Blair, it feels like I just got to sleep. What time is it? Sasuke looked out the window. About 9 a.m. Okay then, time to get out of bed. How was your night, by the way? I don't really know, I'll just say it was interesting and leave it at that. Naruto grinned. We kinda need your help today, are you up for it? The Uchiha snorted. I am, at the very least, one who pays his debts. Besides, it wouldn't count for anything if Itachi d because I was too weak to protect myself. That would contradict the point of him. Naruto grinned wider. Alrighty then, the plan goes like this. 35 minutes before the Itachi looked up wearily as the pink-haired girl walked slowly into his cell carrying a tray of food. He knew from Naruto's stories that this could be no one but Sakura, the girl with the obsessive crush on his brother. He watched passively as she undid his bindings and set some food before him, and he silently started to eat. Itachi had to say he was annoyed at his brother, because although he liked fried rice as much as the next person, asking for it for a final meal was just lame. And water. Water. If Itachi had to pick a final meal, he would ask for a 30 ounces steak marinated in honey taken from the hive at the top of a redwood. As a side dish, he would demand truffles from grass country mixed with escargot from water country. Just to be excessive, he would top it all off by demanding red wine aged for at least 150 years. But his brother had asked for fried rice and water. It was only after a minute or two of mental grumbling did Itachi pay much attention to his pink-haired guest, and he felt a tug on what was left of his heartstrings. Deciding to at least be polite, he looked up at her. "Thank you for this, Sakura." The reaction he got was rather the opposite from what he expected. She started to cry. "Don't thank me, Sasuke-kun. Not now." It looked to Itachi like this girl was even more shaken up than expected at the thought of Sasuke, so the older Uchiha decided she should see the escape. "I have a request, one final thing I would like you to do for me." She smiled and wiped the tears from her eyes. "You know I'd do anything for you, Sasuke-kun." He looked up at the roof his cell. "I want you to be there, at noon today. I want you to promise that, no matter what, you won't look away." Sakura didn't know what to say, but she couldn't refuse him, so she nodded mutely. Itachi wasn't sure what came over him at that moment, but somehow the thought of the joy seeing Sasuke's escape would bring the girl in front of him brought a small but rare smile to Itachi's face. He admonished himself as he went back to eating, if word of this ever got out, someone might mistake him for a good person. 7 minutes before the Naruto, Kisame, Temari and Shizune stood surrounding Itachi, waiting for the signal to proceed. His 3 guards, all again in full Anbu uniform. In the trees at the edge of the training field where the was to take place, Sasuke sat hidden cradling 3 oversized weapons in his arms, cursing whoever had decided that when it came to weapons, bigger was better. They all felt the explosions rock the village, but no one left their posts, and just minutes later Shizune saw the signal and started to lead the Nukanons through the masses of people. As they walked, Naruto sub-vocalized into his communicator, speaking just loud enough for the microphone to pick up on. Temari, I wanted to apologize for something. Is this really the time? Yeah, I need to say this now. I know things have been awkward between us for a while, since the incident on the rooftop, and I'm not really good at this kind of thing. Naruto paused and hesitated for a moment. But I want to say I'm sorry for being so distant and that I really do like you a lot. It was a good thing Temari was wearing the mask, because she could feel her face heating up. I like you too, Naruto, but I really think we should talk about this later. Yeah, later, Naruto agreed, feeling slightly drained. It had taken a lot of courage to say that, far more than he had expected. At this moment, it should be noted that both Naruto and Temari had forgotten one small fact, that since they were talking over their communicators, Kisame could still hear their every word. The shark man wore an evil grin under his mask. If they survived this, he would have enough ammunition to make fun of those two for the next 10 years. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.